I just let everybody in.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
I'll be watching the waiting room so that I'll just keep an eye on it and let people in.
We're on live now, and I think I'm recording live. Yeah. Hi, Mary Beth Carozza.
Morning. You are aware that this is Tourism Day as well?
No, I wasn't, but I will be.
Okay.
Would you like to say something?
No, there's I guess a separate Zoom going on for that I asked that they try to coordinate with you to see if they could be on this, but I know we have another agenda. But I think some of us will probably be jumping off this to be able to say something to our tourism friends.
You know, Mary Beth, we are being recorded also.
Okay. I just wanted to give you the heads up if some of us jump off and come back in.
I think today's kind of a big day all in all, because we have, I'll be staying on the meeting for the whole meeting, but we have caucus at 9:30. We got a lot of things happening. So a lot of people will be jumping in and out. Here in a minute. You know, when you go live stream on this thing, it's kind of funny because it starts it on your computer. So I'm getting both me talking now and me talking. It's kind of confusing for somebody, you know.
Are you straight now, Chairman, or?
Oh, I'm straight.
Yeah, he's straight, all right.
We've got one more day to go in this week, man. You don't want to lose it right now. Come on.
We are being recorded, Mr. Maltz. You know, so.
And we are the Eastern Shore delegation.
Good morning to everyone.
I think what we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, if everybody's here, I'll ask everybody to mute themselves. And I'm sharing the screen, hopefully, by this time. Oh, maybe not, but I'm trying to share it. There we go. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is Senator Eckhart on the screen by any around? Mary Beth, would you care to do the prayer for us this morning then?
Good morning, Heavenly Father.
Senator.
Thank you for bringing us all together on this fine Friday. We all have agendas where we are helping our constituents. So we ask you to bless our meeting, bless our work together, and keep all safe. And we ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just at FY housekeeping, I guess, do we have a quorum? I'd like to get the minutes approved. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. All righty. You know what? This is terrible. I do not have the agenda in front of me. I apologize. Marty, could you tell me who's up first, please?
Choptank.
Choptank Electric. Great.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay to do our.
Yes, it is. We've given you access. Thank you.
All right.
Morning.
All right. Is that coming up on your screen now, the presentation?
Yes, it is.
Yep. Okay. Well, good morning. I'm Valerie Conley, Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Relations at Choptank Electric Cooperative. Oops. With me today to present are Mike Melandro, our President and CEO, and I'm hearing an echo somewhere, and Matt Tifoe, our Manager of Government Affairs. We have a few experts on standby for any technical questions. The Choptank Board of Directors and many of our staff are also online for today's program. And for the second year, the team at Cornerstone Government Affairs is working with us in Annapolis. We're pleased to brief you on cooperative activities on the shore and here in the state capitol. I'll kick it off with an update on the electric business. Mike will go over our broadband news, and Matt will finish up with our 2021 legislative priorities. For over 80 years, Choptank Electric Cooperative has served the Eastern Shore with a reliable, affordable electric service. We are member-owned by the 54,000 customers we serve in all 9 counties. This slide is a few stats from our 2019 annual report. With a 99% reliability rating, the average number of outages experienced per member was under 2. Our call center, staffed in our Denton and Salisbury offices, received almost 60,000 calls. In 2019, we had 163 full-time employees. With a few retirements, we're down to 151 employees. Choptank owns 6,311 miles of electric distribution lines with an average of 8 customer meters per mile. And we have 1,125 net metered accounts. Those are members who have installed rooftop solar systems. A review of 2020. Major storm response. We had Tropical Storm Isaiah sweep up the Eastern Shore, bringing down trees and destroying homes on August 5th and 6th. 26,000 members of Choptank Electric Cooperative were without electricity at one point or another during the storm. That's almost half of our members. Our linemen began responding to outages immediately. Power was restored to most of our members within hours. The final connections were made after a series of poles were replaced. Everyone had power restored within 48 hours of the storm. As part of our resource share agreement with fellow cooperatives, we sent operations crews with trucks and equipment to help restore power after Hurricane Sandy in Alabama and after an early winter storm knocked out power in Virginia. COVID-19 dominated everything we did in 2020. From a staffing perspective, we adjusted work schedules, accommodating work from home and respond from home since March. For those that could not work from home, we implemented a staggered schedule where employees in our member services call center and our accounting divisions reported every other day. We provided personal protective equipment, face masks, and hand sanitizer to all employees, and we stepped up our cleaning of facilities. We required all employees to follow CDC guidelines, and we continued the important business of keeping the lights and heat on with no layoffs or staff cuts. COVID's impact on our members necessitated a variety of adjustments. We continued payment deferrals and suspension of electric cutoffs well past the November 15th date allowed by the Public Service Commission. For some perspective, by September of 2020, we had arrearages of $2.3 million. This was 30% of our accounts receivable. In October, to help avoid suspension of service, we began hand calculating 12-month payment plans for each of our 5,300 past due billing accounts. We called each member who failed to respond in November, and we worked with Caroline and Talbot counties to use CARES Act funding to pay down utility bills for many members. And just before Christmas, we launched the Holiday Helpers Campaign, a GoFundMe account to allow members, employees, and others in the community to make donations to help avoid disconnections during the winter months. With help from the Choptank Electric Trust, the campaign raised over $50,000. The funds are being applied to accounts as customers call to work out monthly payments. It has allowed us to avoid disconnections in many instances. The few disconnects that have occurred are immediately reconnected as soon as customers agree to a payment plan without penalty and without deposits. Finally, 2020 brought the opportunity to bring broadband to our members. After passage of House Bill 999 last March, Choptank held the required member vote from May through August. On August 13th, our members voted 97.7% in favor of member regulation, giving us the authority to pursue our broadband affiliate. Now I'm going to turn the program over to Mike Melandro to unveil our broadband plans. But first, let's take a look at our new logo.
How do you get up there?
I have no idea.
Oh, God.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow delegation members. First, we want to thank you all for your continued support throughout the last few years
No
and
camera.
the time you have invested in helping us make broadband a reality for our members. We're looking forward to working with all of you in the future. We're launching the Choptank Fiber website today, making it available to members and potential customers. One of the questions is about our pricing. We've outlined that here, and you'll be able to visit choptankfiber.com for more information. I think what makes our pricing and speeds unique is that our up and down speeds are the same. Most providers have a high download speed, but then they have an upload speed that is a fraction of their download speed, which as we know, with everybody being home streaming, that upload speed is a lot more important than it was previously. We're on schedule for deployment in the summer of 2021. Fiber supplies and substation equipment are in our warehouse and ready to go. Engineering and IT are preparing the make-ready work along the deployment routes. We will kick off our broadband program with a demonstration project near our headquarters office in Denton. The demo will launch from our Hillsborough substation and pass 150 locations. Our larger rollout in Caroline and Queen Anne's counties this summer will go north from Hillsborough and south from Barclay, passing 920 unserved and underserved locations. In Somerset County, our demo project will begin in late spring, passing 60 homes west of Princess Anne along Choptank's existing backbone fiber. The larger county rollout will begin over the summer, passing 309 locations east and southeast of Princess Anne. Our smaller demo projects will allow us to work through the new workflows involved in the broadband business. These include online customer registration, permitting, design, and back-end customer support, phone inquiries, and billing. Our goal is to reach all of the cooperative members with the offer of broadband services over 10 years. We will review and update our service maps annually. Our target this year is to begin projects in the 3 counties outlined above. In 2022, we will begin projects in Dorchester, Wycomico, and Worcester. In 2023, we will begin in Cecil, Kent, and Talbot. I think it's obvious by the size of the job that we won't be able to complete all coverage to a county in a single year. Again, this is a 10-year rollout. To summarize, customer connections to broadband will begin this summer. We have partnered with Queen Anne's, Caroline, and Somerset counties in applications to the Office of Rural Broadband seeking funds this year. We will partner with remaining counties on the shore in 2022 and 2023. We expect to pass 1,000 homes during the remainder of this year and up to 2,000 homes in each year thereafter. Additional grant funding from state or federal sources will speed that up. We are aggressively pursuing all opportunities. I'll now pass it over to Matt Defoe to discuss the 2021 legislative priorities.
Thank you, Mike, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Eastern Shore delegation. For the record, Matt Defoe here, Government Affairs Manager at Choptank Electric Cooperative, and I want to briefly go over 3 bills we have identified as priorities for Choptank Electric Cooperative and Choptank Fiber. The first bill is House Bill 648, Senate Bill 561, which authorizes an annual and special meetings of members of the electric cooperative to be conducted in person, virtually, or both. Under current law, an annual or special meeting of members of a cooperative must be held in person with a quorum of 50 members attending live and in person. In 2020, we learned that is not always possible. We also learned that members like a virtual option. This bill allows us to protect members if there is a health concern, but also add the virtual option they requested as we move forward. I'd like to thank sponsor C.T. Wilson on the House side and Senator Hershey on the Senate. The House bill was heard yesterday in ECM and will be heard in Finance next week. The second bill is House Bill 97, Senate Bill 66. This bill codifies the State Office of Broadband and broadens the scope of work for the office. We support this legislation, along with a friendly amendment that assures the commitment to rural broadband infrastructure continues to be a primary focus of the office. Both the House and the Senate sponsors of the bills have accepted our amendment, along with others from the Rural Maryland Council. Next slide, please. The last bill of importance is House Bill 583, Senate Bill 414, the Climate Solutions Now Act of 2021. Our main concern with this bill is the net zero greenhouse gas emission mandate by 2045. We believe this mandate, which was not part of the State Climate Change Commission's report or recommendations, will have a negative impact on electric grid reliability and may cause harm to ratepayers. As many of you know, Choptank Electric Cooperative is a member for the not-for-profit power supply cooperative, Old Dominion Electric Cooperative, also known as ODEC. Choptank receives 100% of its wholesale power from ODEC. We have this long-term working relationship with ODEC to reduce greenhouse gas emissions while supplying reliable base generation energy through advanced technology, including our Wildcat Point facility in Cecil County. Next slide, please. As you see here, just recently, ODEC announced a goal on its own to achieve a net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Choptank is well represented on ODEC's board, including John Burke from Cecil County and Mike Lange, who currently is the Secretary Treasurer. Just one last point on Senate Bill 414, the state mandate of 2045 with no extensions or off-ramp would undermine both ODEC and Choptank's goal in investing in the new technology, including the Wildcat Point facility. And here is my last slide and an invitation to the Eastern Shore delegation, hopefully in early fall of this year, to visit the Wildcat Point facility, which provides clean, reliable power at a low cost. It generates enough power to power 390 homes in the region annually. It's located just north of the town of Rising Sun and just a few miles outside the town of Elkton. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, end my presentation. I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you. So I'm looking for some hands. Any hands? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
While I'm looking for hands, Matt, I have a quick question on HB 648. We heard that in committee. Is that like a forever bill, or is that just pandemic related?
It's forever.
Okay, so you're gonna change potentially way you do business forever with the virtual meetings.
We'll have the option to have the virtual meeting if needed, and also have it on hand when we do in person as well. We found that the meeting we held last year, members, they watched the Facebook Live. It's now on our YouTube channel, so they can go back and watch it if they were unable to attend. So they like the option.
Okay. All right. I think I have Senator Carrozza.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt, for that update. As you are well aware, we on the Senate Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee have been trying to conduct work sessions to even understand what's in the bill. and the impacts before offering amendments. And I think you heard, the point that I raised with the chairman in our last work session. Senator Jason Gallion, who is our ranking member on the committee, is also working with the chair on how we can basically work through the issues and offer amendments. So I appreciate the fact that, you have come through and, with this amendment on behalf of Choptank. I want to just, in the interest of others on the call, just underscore that this is a extremely complex bill, multifaceted, 52 pages. And, we are literally, trying to go through it and make sure we, number one, understand everything that's in it, and then, begin to work through some of these issues. So I appreciate the fact that you have already, put this type of work into it. And I would just, if there are others on this Zoom that have been working on this bill and have amendments, asking you if you would please send those to Senator Gallion and to myself as soon as possible, since this will continue to be on the agenda for our committee.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Delegate Mounts.
Thanks, Chairman. Of course, we're all very interested in the broadband rollout. I know things are early, and I was wondering if there would be any follow-up over the summer, or when the next time we would have a discussion about that.
We're at your disposal, Delegate Mounts. We would love to have some of you out, if we're able to gather when we do a ribbon cutting for the demo project and to start to unveil some of what we're doing. We'd love to have you. We'll meet with you at any time to really talk about what our plans are and how we see it moving forward.
Well, I appreciate y'all being here today. And I think that more communication on that is probably better than less. And Zoom meetings, whatever's the easiest, just keep everybody up to speed on what's going on, because we hear about it all the time. And it would really help us to know, just so we're current with the information we're sharing with our constituents,
And
and
I know
any developments that are going on.
Time is short today, but we would love the opportunity to talk to some of you about what happened with the FCC funding opportunities. I know we talked about that a lot last year, doing this quickly in order to be able to participate in that. And we think that process needs to be realigned. You guys can't do that. We are working with the congressional delegation to get them to take a look at how the FCC did their auction this summer and fall. But there are some negative impacts for broadband across the state because of what happened there. And we would love the opportunity to talk with you guys in a little more detail, just so everybody has an understanding of it.
Let's just put that on the tentative, and then we can come back to it. Today's not the day. So
Right.
everybody, thank you very much.
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Chairman.
Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yesterday we heard 583 in our committee. It was a long hearing. Matt, were you or Val on that? Watch that?
I watched as much as I could. It was like you said, it was very long. And the Senator Croza put it also in place that it's being worked on the Senate side. I believe it's on the voting session today. They're working through the bill. It is very complex and touches a lot of sectors. Transportation. It's got a really robust tree planting program goal in the bill as well. But yeah, we're monitoring it both on the House side, and in whatever form it moves over, we'll be here to answer any questions for you, delegate.
You noticed that Ben Grummels, the Secretary of MDE, seemed to be supportive with amendments, but he seemed to be very supportive of the of the concept anyway. So I don't know if you got a copy of their letter that was submitted, but it really points out
I can reach out to
concern.
Tyler.
Yeah, reach out to Tyler, see if you can get a copy of that, because I think it'd be helpful in understanding where they're coming from. But I know that bill's got more moving parts than a Chevrolet truck. So appreciate the heads up on that, but we're all keeping our eyes on that bill.
More moving parts in a Chevrolet truck, huh? Okay, Delegate Adams.
Wait a minute, let me say Ford, King Ranch Ford.
Thank you. Delegate Adams.
Jay, how about a Dodge? I just got a Dodge. Val and Matt and team, Mike, I just wanted to take a second and thank you. I was looking at the very outset of your presentation, the 96% of uptime. I was one of the 0.04% this past fall, and I made a phone call, and I would say within an hour, we had a technician there, and at some point it required like a real repair to a line between the box out on the street and to the house. And we had a backhoe, 2 big trucks. The neighbors the next morning asked what was going on. And I was up with power within 5 hours of that call. And it was something wrong with the line between the house and the box. It was a major repair. And I thought I know it's anecdotal, but your percentage of uptime, I can certainly authenticate that you're very serious about that. And I thought I'd add that today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, the good news is we're ahead of schedule. I appreciate that, Val. And Mike, thanks a lot. And Matt, we appreciate you being here, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again soon on this. Next up, we have Maryland Association of Counties, Michael Sanderson, Alex Butler. Are we in the house? Going once.
We are. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. Just, Alex, just briefly, I think we're going to see some of our members have to drop off around 9:30 probably, but we'll just keep moving forward. I'll be on the call for the duration, okay? So
okay, sure. I will go ahead and I know Kevin Canale, our legislative director, is going to come on and talk some of the bigger picture items, but I'll go ahead and kick us off. Just start off, I wanted to first off introduce myself, Alex Butler with MACO. I handle the environment and planning and zoning portfolio for the association. Thank you all for having MACO here this morning. I wanted to talk a bit about some land use issues facing counties this session. Number one, a hot topic for local land use for the past several years has been solar siting. When we were before you last session, I discussed how we were glad not to have seen a bill relating to solar siting, and it dropped shortly afterwards. Solar developers have been pushing it just about every turn to tell the state and locals that their project approvals are going through too slowly. The governor's task force on renewable energy development and siting issued a recommendation, I believe last summer, to take a look at and revise the state's solar siting process, the CPCN, Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity process for utility scale solar. The Public Service Commission has since begun a rulemaking, and we've been engaging in that process. The outcome, at least based on staff recommendations, is likely to be that they establish they do some process reform where developers provide more upfront information to local jurisdictions, and so that they can establish the consistency of the project with local land use, with comprehensive plan, with zoning, and then also get that recommendation from the governing body. And that's going to be under a set time frame. They've pitched 90 days, and then there's some discussion over that. However, this year we have a solar bill in. It's House Bill 103, Senate Bill 90. It deals with the back end and the site plan approval process. Generally, site plan approval comes with the issues that impact the community. The CPCN process, the state process, mainly deals with where are these panels going to go? Can they be used for this project in this area? As well as other issues like the reliability and the safety or efficient delivery of the energy generating station. This year, however, the site plan process often deals with the more important aspects of how these projects are going to look on the ground once they're built in the form of buffers, setbacks, construction permits, stormwater, Forest Conservation Act, sediment and erosion control, and beyond. The bill includes some pretty vague language stating that a local government cannot unreasonably withhold the issuance of the site plan approval for a CPCN project. The bill does not define what is considered unreasonable. And we're sure that it is, going to invite excess litigation and legal challenges based on that vague standard. It's simply unnecessary, especially since the Public Service Commission already has the authority to remove local site plan and permit approvals from its conditions. Essentially, we feel that adequate remedies exist if local jurisdictions are not playing ball and getting these approvals done. They simply want their local standards to be upheld throughout the process. So MACO is opposing this bill. Again, this is House Bill 103, Senate Bill 90, for several different reasons, as I've kind of outlined there. And I'm happy to take any questions related to solar siting if anybody has any. Otherwise, I can go ahead with a few other issues that MACO is looking at this session in the land use area. I also wanted to touch on the Climate Solutions Act Now bill. This is House Bill 583, Senate Bill 414. The bill does a myriad of things relating to tree planting, building codes, etc. MACO is advocating on this bill primarily for state support. The bill has a new requirement that schools be constructed to be solar ready, which means they have to be able to accept solar panels and have a certain percentage of the roof clear and free of obstruction to get access to sunlight. That could add some significant design, engineering, and construction costs for counties. And to address that, we're asking for state support in this area. We think the state should take similar action if you're going to mandate these requirements on local jurisdictions for these buildings. We're asking that you take similar action to what was done when the state mandated high performance buildings, and I believe it was 2008. And that action created a state cost share for the new requirements, giving us, better buildings without an entirely unfunded state mandate. I know Kevin will talk a little bit more about our sort of budget issues that we're having at the local level and how this all sort of folds in. And one more issue that I wanted to bring to your attention is a bill relating to the CoSmart Council. The bill would wholesale apply CoSmart provisions to private development. We're talking about the floodplain here. MACO has been supportive of CoSmart when it applied to state infrastructure projects, and then eventually that was expanded to go to local projects as well, county projects, as long as it's 50% or more state funded. That's where the expertise of the CoSmart Council is. That's what it's designed for. It's designed for that state-owned infrastructure. Not necessarily that private is exempted, but this body was created to address development in the floodplain for state infrastructure. And right now, the CoSmart Council does not currently play any enforcement role. It's self-certifying, but this bill would take that and apply it to private projects. So for instance, single family homes in the floodplain and a new expanded boundary, the climate ready action boundary from the CoSmart, which is the 100-year floodplain plus 3 vertical feet, and then wherever that meets land. So we're talking about a new expanded area for private development, private projects would be subject to the CoSmart Council provisions, which could be it's higher. In some cases, it's a different height elevation for building requirements, and then it also has to withstand there a myriad of other requirements in the CoSmart Council provisions. So this year, the bill also has an enforcement provision that ties the requirements to the Department of Natural Resources. Last year, the bill was open-ended. Maybe we did not take a position on that one. This year, we are going to be tasked with enforcement. The Department of Natural Resources is almost certain to delegate that enforcement to the local government. That means that local permitting and planning and public works departments would likely all need to play a role in enforcing CoSmart. And that simply is something that we can't do right now. Local permitting, planning, and public works departments have already raised concerns about their ability to staff up to deal with these new permit reviews. They would require significant new resources for floodplain management and all of these reviews associated with making sure that the buildings are conforming to standards. If you take a look at the fiscal note on this one, this is House Bill 512. It outlines that we would need local governments would need new positions. City of Havre Grace estimates that they would need a new employee, and then counties can, back that up as well. We would certainly need more people in our planning and zoning departments to enforce the provisions. We just can't afford this at the local government level right now, and we have our own floodplain management ordinances that we do update. So we feel that is the adequate way to handle this issue. So those are that's sort of a wrap up of sort of some of the land use and environment issues that MACO's dealing with right now. I'm happy to stand for any questions. And I'm not sure if Kevin's able to join us yet. Talk a little bit about budget issues.
Just real quickly, are there any questions on what Alex went over? Nobody's hand? Okay. Kevin, good to have you.
Thank you, sir. Senator Hershey, did you have a question before I saw your hand?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Alex, real quick, what is the typical time frame that the solar developers are saying will take to go through the CPCN process at this time?
The window from start to finish for the CPCN process?
Yeah.
It ranges. It really varies on the project. Projects that are consistent with local zoning sail right through that process. Projects that are in the right area, they have the right requirements. It's really dependent on how well the developer provides information up front. If the power plant research program has to come back and ask for a variety of questions to get new information, then it just extends the process. So I think part of what the Public Service Commission is doing right now through this regulatory reform is they want that information up front. Local jurisdictions want that information up front so they can determine right off the bat, is this consistent? And then following through with that, the power plant research program and sort of the secretary's letter that really is the state share of, the information and review process, that can go much more smoothly. And we agree with them there.
Well, my point is I'm hearing some of the developers came in and they say it's 12 to 18 months right now as far as the time frame and their complaints. Obviously, they're complaining that it's taking too long, hence Senator Feldman's bill to try to find a way to slow that down. At the same time, Senate has on the floor today, or will probably special order it, a bill that also makes the PSC evaluate labor standards and climate change effects on anything that comes through for the CPCN process. Obviously, it's geared towards natural gas facilities, but solar and gets taken into that through the CPCN process. I argued in arguing against the bill that would actually probably extend this time frame even further to get through the CPCN process now that the PSC has to evaluate two additional components for it. But at the same time, this is a touchy subject for us because, in some places we hear that farmers want to have options with their land and want to be able to do something different. At the other times, we're hearing that basically the Eastern Shore is taking the brunt for the entire state when it comes to utility scale solar projects. And obviously some commissioners and counties would like to see that slowed down and not have to bear that responsibility. So it's just being interesting as far as the time frame on what's going on. And obviously I see that's again what Senator Feldman's bill would like to streamline that a little bit more. I just again wondered if you had concerns or if you've heard comments about if it really is 12 to 18 months and maybe this even pushes it out to 24 months or so.
Well, I do think it would extend time. I mean, these projects do take time. I mean, I think you can see in the fiscal note for the House Bill 103, Senate Bill 90, Senator Feldman's bill, I think even MDE expressed some concerns with complying with that new timeline. And when you add in these new requirements, it's going to take even more time. So to the extent that we can have a reasonable exchange on what is a good time frame, that makes sense to me. I think this bill from Senator Feldman deals also with the back end and the local approval process for site planning. This isn't the process that the Public Service Commission is dealing with right now. That is dealing with the front end and requiring developers to upfront provide some of this information that eventually goes to the power plant research program and for the state to do its review. So we're negotiating there, but then we also have this portion on the back end that's going to limit local jurisdictions' ability to make sure these things are implemented properly in the community. And that's take the time to do, necessary reviews and all of the things that I mentioned before, from everything from stormwater, erosion control, erosion sediment control, and beyond. So we still want to play, a reasonable and respectful role in the process. We realize that we've lost the final siting authority to the Public Service Commission through the perennial decision. But it's about playing a meaningful role on the ground, what these projects are going to look like, what the buffering and setback looks like, and we maintain that we need to retain that local authority, and any attempt to erode that is certainly going to bring us out in opposition.
I agree. Thank you very much for your help there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I really can't see when you're waving your hands. It's a little difficult to see because my screen isn't that big. Any other questions for Mako? I do have I have an off the wall question for Mako, and it kind of pertains my district than any other district, but we've been fighting for decades this battle about a Bay Bridge, and I was wondering if Mako had any ability to take up a charge for us, because this bridge affects the entire state, not just part of us. It affects every county is virtually touched by the Bay Bridge, and we've seen some things happen with other bridges in this state. I was wondering if you guys could maybe give me an idea if there's something we could be working together with you all on to get you guys engaged in this bridge problem we have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say we've seen bills over the past few years that have we've basically shown up and said, when it comes to local transportation issues, that we wanted the Eastern Shore counties to retain their authority. There was a bill that would have expanded that authority, that essentially that veto authority from the shore to across the state, and we basically said leave the shore alone. That's a separate issue. When it comes to what we can do for you, I mean, I'm happy to entertain any kind of proposals, anything that we can do to provide information. I know it's a sensitive subject on the shore, and so I think different counties have different opinions on what they'd like to see, and that's sort of where you have to walk the fine line. But in terms of being, sort of a place where you can get resources and we can connect people together, sort of, act in that way, we're happy to do anything that we can to help you all with this issue. I know it's a tricky one, and I know Michael is on now too, and he's been around for this stuff for longer than I have, but I think that anything that you'd like us to do, we're happy to try and help you.
Well, Kevin, to that end, I guess what I'd like to see is, we've seen Mako step up for highway user dollars because that affects every county. We've seen Mako do a lot of things and introduce it to Mako, to the members of Mako. And, one of the things that always baffled me is I'll get off highway user real quick here, but, we look at our county representatives who are our leaders and what have you, and somehow, some way the highway users dollar vanished, but Mako is the vehicle to get to the delegations, if you will. And I was thinking that if Mako could sit up and maybe talk about having this as a priority, say, we do have a situation that affects commerce throughout the state, and that is every county, that is representing everything. So it is every Mako interest, and sort of like everything else on that, we maybe would look for your guidance and your help to start introducing conversation at Mako, to sit back and say, can this be an initiative Mako can help us with and help take up? That's kind of where I'm going with it. And I don't know that vehicle.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely.
I know Michael stayed muted on this one. I see that.
I think this is something that we certainly should talk about at our conferences. We should have sessions on this issue. When it comes to an initiative, it's a member-driven process. We consider a bunch of different proposals every year in terms of what Mako's priorities should be. So this certainly could be one, and I can help whomever come up with sort of a proposal for an initiative, and we bring that up to our initiative subcommittee and then to our full legislative committee. But yeah, I know it's a big issue. One of the things I've been concerned with is, when those local roads get jammed, emergency services can't get through, and you see them trying to get on the shoulder. So it's more than just traffic. It's more than just a commerce issue. It's also a public safety issue. No doubt about it. It's a problem. And again, we're happy to do whatever we can to help you all try and move the ball forward.
Okay. Michael, would you like to say anything? It's good to have you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm trying to cover two meetings at once. My colleagues, I think, have covered things admirably. We're happy to take up priorities of the shore or any of our member counties through our initiative process. I think Kevin said that well. So happy to have a great partnership with so many of you, even though this year it's not quite as cordial as it sometimes is. We can't talk face to face. It's just not the same. So miss seeing you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think Senator Hershey has a question. Unmute, Steve.
Thank you. Michael or Kevin, one of the obviously we've just in the process of passing the COVID Relief Act. I think it's been muddied up in the House a little bit. But the point of me even bringing that is it's a $1.5 billion piece of legislation, relief package, stimulus package for a number of low-income individual businesses, volunteers, some of those things. What that didn't do that many of us were very concerned about is provide any real assistance to our seniors that we believe have been just as adversely affected throughout the pandemic as any other group. I spoke about that on the Senate floor during the floor debate. The governor has pointed to his Retirement Tax Reduction Act. That was just heard in the Senate Delegate Eckert's committee, I guess last week. Did MACO take a position on this? And if so, can you just explain to me what the thought process is for that piece of legislation?
I can speak to that for a moment globally, Senator, and then maybe Kevin might be able to elaborate on the details. But I will say when it comes to tax relief, particularly in the income tax, the tax committees and those of you who serve on either budget and tax or ways and means are familiar with, there's sort of two flavors of income tax relief writ large. One of them is a state income tax credit, and one of them is a subtraction modification, which is basically a write-off on your taxable income. And when it comes to counties, our point of view is state tax credit is the state putting your money where your mouth is and saying, this is something we think is a good practice or whatever we want to benefit. And so we'll do a state credit and put up state dollars to back it up. When it's a subtraction modification, it ends up being both state and local dollars, and the counties are along for the ride, whether they like it or not, whether they can afford it or not. So we have submitted a blanket policy statement to the tax committees, basically saying, when you're looking at income tax policy, we really prefer A over B. Let the counties decide whether they want to piggyback on with their own local option tax incentives that would make sense locally. So that's the general framework that we come at income tax issues with. When it comes to retirement issues, I think I'm remembering correctly, the governor's proposal is a subtraction modification, which would have that spillover effect on the county budgets. So we're in the fiscal note for tens of millions of dollars, independent of whether the county commissioners or council members looked through it and said, we can handle it and afford it locally. So it's in that second track for us. We're just trying to say, make a state decision at the state level, let the locals make their own decision.
And you're right about that. My question is, and we always, many of us legislators have to deal with this all the time when it comes to fiscal notes. They really don't do any dynamic type of scoring. It's very cut and dry. If you do this, this will happen. It doesn't talk about the effects. And I don't know if there's anywhere in the fiscal note that even says, well, we're losing this many seniors already as they're migrating to places like Delaware and North Carolina, where they do not tax retirement income. I also don't know if they would say, what type of value that these retirees are providing to our communities, especially in the rural areas where we rely so much on volunteers and things of that nature, where these seniors are in there, they need something to do, they're helping out with the community. I don't know how all of that rolls into a fiscal note, and it probably doesn't. But it's a little disheartening, and I certainly understand what you're saying, that the counties, correct, will lose some additional revenue from income tax as a result of this. But I just think there's so many more positives that could occur, and I really think that we need to find a way to kind of stop this migration and find and allow seniors to stay in Maryland where they want to stay, rather than to watch them to move to other states. So Senator Eckert and I talked about it this last night at length, and we're really trying to push this session, and I know the governor is as well, and we're going to try to keep the pressure on it, even if it comes to this Relief Act and a possible floor amendment to bring this out and find a solution here. But, I just wanted to kind of hear where you stood, and I kind of figured that would be the response. But just know that we need to do something. I don't know if this is something that could be done on a county by county level. I don't know if you could do enabling legislation to say, hey, if a county wants to attract seniors to that area, that they're willing to do that. But something needs to be done to help our seniors, and I really think this is the legislative session to do so.
I think anything that provides that flexibility and, another tool in the toolbox for counties is always something that we're interested in. But like Michael said, the mandated reductions in revenue is a problem. I mean, on the relief bill, that bill has $187 million fiscal note for counties in just fiscal 21. I mean, that's not being talked about much, but that's the kind of stuff that, when we get piling on of everybody wants a subtraction modification, everybody wants help, and we get it. But this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with. We know we have Kerwin to pay for. It's a whole separate issue, but all this stuff adds up really quickly. And so any kind of targeted or local option tax incentives that we have for counties to provide relief to whomever is always a good thing. And then that can be properly vetted at the local level with the proper local input.
Yeah, you're right, Mark. And I do believe that, Kevin, it's all about priorities, and I'm just saying I think that we need to make our seniors our priorities right now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Senator Carozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will be brief, and I want to associate my remarks with Senator Hershey. I represent Ocean Pines, and I can tell you that we are losing, we were attracting seniors there to that community, but now we are starting to lose seniors to Florida and other states. And although that's the point about the fiscal impact, not only are these seniors, leaving the area, but they also make tremendous contributions as volunteers in our communities as well. So again, it's hard to put a fiscal note to that, but I think there should be a way that we can work with the counties to make this a priority for all.
And property tax relief sometimes is a really good way too. And we see that a lot with local option property tax credits and incentives. That's something that we really like to see expanded. Any kind of local option credit or incentive that we can provide. Again, another tool in the toolbox is always good for us. And that's what we're asking for, a seat at the table when we're making decisions that affect local revenues.
All right, thank you. Senator Eckhart, you had your hand up. Are you okay?
Yeah, I was just going to say, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say, I have always heard from citizens that they do not want their retirement double taxed. And that's the bottom line. And, I have 2 military sons, and they will not come to Maryland because of the taxation. They've domiciled elsewhere. And that's what we are losing. And I've watched it over the past 25 years. And more people just go to South Carolina, go to Delaware, they go to Florida. And I think we need to think about a way to do this. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I think that's about it. Kevin, I did have something when you mentioned this. I don't think that's one of the problems we're running into today in the General Assembly is the cumulative effect of all these bills. And the short-sightedness is just unbelievable to me personally, that we're trying to accomplish something in every area, and we're duplicative in a lot of these grants and funding, and everyone has a great cause, everyone has a great point, except that with that being combined with several others, I mean, we're just killing the taxpayer right now with nobody's really taking a hard look at what the future holds for us. And it doesn't look good. As far as a county person, ex-county commissioner, I would be scared as all get out over all the stuff that we're doing over here. It would bother me because it's all going to fall back to the local level. That's just my 2 cents worth for the day. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I think one thing about Kerwin, I know that everybody's interested. There's a technical issue that I think Mako is going to try and fix. And this is something you'll probably hear about from your local boards of education and your counties when it comes to enrollment. Michael, do you want to say a quick word on that? Because I think it's something that people are hearing and they're concerned with, but I think it needs to be addressed for sure.
I'll try and speak to this really briefly. You probably are familiar that the governor's provided some hold harmless funding for each school system to make sure that we know that the kid count, the enrollment count this past fall was weird because of the circumstances of schooling. So most school districts had a drop in their enrollment count, which ordinarily would mean funding would go down. But you build funding for next year based on the count we did this last fall. If things are in good shape and we've got kids back in school next year, that kid count is going to come back. So governor, I think, tried to do the right thing and said, we're going to hold school systems harmless. We're going to basically ignore that enrollment count. He also, in the BRFA bill, says that the counties, in order to get that funding, need to do the same thing. I think that's all practically reasonable. The problem, though, is that if we hold the harmless, we have increased our dollars per pupil. And then next year, when the kids come back, we'll end up having an artificial bump up in each county's maintenance of effort requirement. I don't think that was anybody's intent. So I think it is really a technical issue. I'm hoping what you'll hear is a technical fix to basically say, next year, this time, we should be looking at probably the 21 numbers and not the 22 numbers, because this year is just a one-time aberration. So put a pin in that. You'll probably hear that, those of you on the fiscal committees, when you hear the budget reconciliation bill, but it's something that needs to be fixed. And I think everybody should be philosophically on board with doing so.
Thank you. Senator Hershey had another comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, are you saying that the local boards of education spent their entire budget without having in-person learning during this pandemic?
Two separate questions. Maintenance of effort is entirely about what the counties have to hand to the school boards. Now, what the school boards have done with it, with their own funds and with federal funds that have come through federal relief and so forth, is a different matter. County governments have a very limited ability to audit and ask for accountability in school spending. So that's not what I'm trying to get to. Honestly, a part of what we could tackle this year would be what should a school system do with funds that weren't fully spent this last fiscal year or might not be fully spent this fiscal year. Like carrying over and reappropriating some of that money would probably make sense. Right. State law doesn't give us any real ability to do that locally. If we get a handshake, we can, but not without the schools being on board.
Okay, so the counties just do not have enough ability to seek accountability from the school boards on where those dollars were spent. So obviously then maintenance of effort continues to kick in even if all the budget didn't get spent or didn't need to get spent. That's more the driving force than the actual dollars spent.
Correct.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Michael.
All right. Any other questions for the group? Seeing none, Michael, Kevin, and Alex, we appreciate it. As always, good seeing you guys, and thanks for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving forward, we have our federal group, Mr. Arntz and Ms. Kelly. Who wants to go first?
I think ladies should go first. Good morning, everyone.
Not anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick update that came out earlier this week. FEMA, at the direction of President Biden, has waived the 25% non-federal cost share to combat COVID. So Maryland will be receiving $182 million. That'll help cover all the expenses related to COVID in the state. Other than that, I really don't have any other updates for you. So thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, thank you. Mike.
Yeah, Delegate Arntz, just a couple of quick announcements, just to make sure that the delegation is aware. The fisheries aid from the first CARES Act is set to expire at the end of this month, if not extended, which it may be. And there's additional aid from the last stimulus that will become available soon through NOAA and through DNR. And then finally, I just want to make sure everybody is aware, and we have sent this out to a lot of the fire companies, but just to make sure if you run into anybody that's involved with the fire companies, make sure they're aware that the Safer Grant Program, which is Department of Homeland Security FEMA grant program, stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. And I know a lot of the fire companies are hurting for money because they can't raise any money. It opened on February 8th and it closes on March 12th. So they got to make application by then. And that's it for me.
Thank you. First, I want everybody to know that Mike Arntz represents Congressman Harris. Melissa Kelly works with Senator Van Hollen, and Kim Cradaville's not here today, but she'll update us next week. She works for Senator Cardin. And I think Senator Carrozza has a quick comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for running an efficient meeting with so much going on. I just wanted to acknowledge my intern who is on our Eastern Shore Delegation Zoom call today. Connor Carpenter attends University of Maryland College Park, and we are trying to present these different opportunities for our interns since they cannot be with us in session. So I appreciate the opportunity to have him be part of our meeting today.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the committee? You know what, we all have to go into a voting session here at 10 o'clock, so I'll probably be getting off. So, and I think we're at the end of the agenda. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Next week, just to keep looking at your emails because there's a conflict coming up possibly with session for us. This COVID, the way we're running business right now has kind of put a little cog in all of our wheels. So keep that in mind. We'll keep you in touch. Other quick note is we Maryland caucus meeting yesterday. We'll have another one on March 11th. So stay tuned for that. All right. Thank you very much and enjoy the day. Have a great weekend.